All right, I'm joined by my colleagues, Katelyn, Tocci, and Alex Cyr. Per usual, this is a special one and perhaps a nerve-wracking one for me personally. Deep breath, guys. Our 2024 Chicago Marathon preview episode. I'm going to do some on-the-ground, on-course reporting on Sunday for us because I'm running the race. But before I actually do that, let's break it down. Let's talk about Chicago. We had a fun time chatting about Berlin last week. Before we get into the full meat and potatoes of the preview pod, guys, and got plenty planned for you, let's talk about one of the more curious little news items that popped up this week. Strava athlete intelligence. Alex, has the Strava bot been telling you that you've been training too hard?
It's been talking to me in my dreams. You know, I knew it was coming out because I received the PR pitch about it, right? Like Strava is unveiling this cool new feature and do you want to know about it? And full disclosure, I didn't follow up on the email because I get a lot of these. And I kind of regret not following up on it because a couple days later, this thing appears on my Strava that probably is the biggest and most significant feature that the app has added. So basically, so far, all it is like it's a paragraph, right? A paragraph that shows up at the end of each of your runs. So like you click on your activity, and this like little athlete intelligence paragraph will read out like a couple little observations about your run, like nice work, you're crushing it, or you went a little bit slower than last time. Like it's kind of like a coach telling you what you did right or wrong, and it's like I don't know, it's a little bit weird. It's like I didn't really opt into this. And like these things exist, right? Like my Apple Watch will tell me that, or like your Garmin will say, like, oh, this was faster than before. But this feels a little bit more intrusive because it's waiting for you as you get home. Caitlin, you've tried it, I think?
I've tried it. I heard about it this morning. I checked it out this morning. And I saw that on runs from over the weekend, I had some pending paragraphs from the Strava Athlete Intelligence. So I decided, okay, I'm going to go through because I also saw that I had a crown. And I was like, oh, okay, I did not know this. So on Saturday, I went for my last long run before my race on Saturday. I'm also racing, not the Chicago Marathon, but I'm racing a trail race. And, so I'm tapering. We went for like a 2-hour long run, but it was more of a hike. Okay, we went to this like really popular mountain around here that's called Pico Blanco, White Peak. Going up Pico Blanco, it's 5 kilometers up and it's got 900 meters of gain. So it's like almost a vertical kilometer. Okay, but it's like, it's a good place to go when you're tapering if you're used to climbing because you're basically going to do just like a really nice hike. So I was like, all right, so I'm going to do this hike, 10K, probably take a little less than 2 hours because I'm going to go nice and easy. Okay, so I did this run. I had a great time. I was just like super psyched because, the last long run before the race. Get down. Didn't even know that I got a crown. Okay, beat the segment. Didn't know until today when I went in to look for the athlete intelligence. So I was like, wow, I can't believe I got the segment on a day where I'm just like doing this hike. I hiked a little strong on the way up to get there and finish. And I was like, wow, what is it going to say about me? And it was like, you're running slower than usual. I'm like, did you not just see that I got the crown, that I have the record of the Strava segment in like an hour and 2 minutes or whatever it was of this vertical kilometer? It was like, your recovery, your heart rate was a little high for this recovery run. Who said it was a recovery run? And you're running slower than usual than your average. And I was like, yeah, well, I'm tapering. It said the same thing for a run that I did yesterday or today. It doesn't know that I'm tapering for a run, and it's telling me that I'm slow. So I'm not very happy with it.
Well, maybe you just need to keep trying it because it gets to be a little bit more accurate with time. Mine has become like a little more intrusive, like in the last
Oh,
couple of days. I don't know. Do we have the footage of this?
I've got a soundbite from one of the
oh.
athlete intelligence notifications sent to Alex. Let's take a listen.
Hello, Alex. Since you have yet to spy on Connor G's Strava feed today, I prepared a summary of his workout for you. His threshold pace was 2.4 seconds faster than yours. Loser.
Yeah, it like
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
and it gets worse.
You captioned this activity easy run, despite your heart rate reaching 185 beats per minute. Based on your recent distribution of kudos, it appears that you tried to impress Jessica P. from Seattle. I have sent her a direct message with links to your profile, a wink emoji, and an eggplant emoji.
Like, totally not true. I don't even follow Jessica P from Seattle. And then they started throwing some digs about how I'm working out harder than usual.
Well done on your 3 hard workouts this week, Alex. Would you like me to book a preemptive physiotherapy session for the injury you will sustain in approximately 11 days?
Like, come on, man. Anyway,
But
this is about a week ago, so apparently I'm getting injured by Friday.
okay, well,
Well,
let's hope they don't have a crystal ball, Strava.
the upside is you don't have to run your goal race then if you get injured, so you're all good.
Yeah, I can bow out. It's exactly what I wanted. Sure.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Mm.
Do you think that when Apple rolled out Apple Intelligence recently, all the Strava people were like, "Oh, come on, we have athlete intelligence," and like they're kind of like, "Shit, do we have to rename this thing now?"
Yeah, because they got, I guess that's the thing, right? You want to co-opt AI and put another A word that sounds better than artificial, which I guess is like almost any A word at this point.
Yeah, I think we need to like just let go of the play on AI. And I mean, this is going to be everywhere, right? It's going to be everywhere in training apps. I'm sure the marathon majors will start leveraging this as well. My guess, if you really pressed the Strava people, is they're probably paying into something like, whatever the latest iteration of ChatGPT is, that, ChatGPT, OpenAI that owns ChatGPT, and others like Google, like will like rent out server space effectively to power your AI. I know IBM basically are just like trying to live on this right now, and I'm sure Strava is just paying into that, and it's spinning out some basic running tips based on how much you've run. I don't know. I mean, it could get good. It could get really good over time, but I know Katelyn, the coach, is highly skeptical of bot coaching, and I am too,
Yeah.
because I think most of coaching is actually like being like running therapist,
Oh, totally.
and sort of talking your athlete off a ledge, and or talking your athlete, into doing something or buying into something that doesn't show immediate results but will show long-term results. All these sorts of dynamics, right? So
Yeah, I just
yeah.
think that it's perhaps not quite smart enough to give great insight just yet. And I mean, yeah, maybe it could help out with training in general, like you're saying. The other side of it, like being that person, being that human, it's just like going back to years ago. I was a teacher for 19 years at a high school teacher, and they always said like, "Oh, teachers are going to be replaced by computers." I remember that being like, the big thing. Teachers are going to be replaced by computers. I'm just like the human. There are some jobs where you really just need the human connection, and so yeah, maybe it can give us some good insight on training at some point when it gets a little smarter. But until now, I mean, it's never going to be able to give the kind of like, feedback and human touch that another person has.
But I also sympathize with these companies too, because I can just tell that the feedback that Apple, Strava, all these like fitness adjacent companies have probably received over the years is like, you can give someone a ton of heart rate variability data and like VO2 max data and all that, but the user doesn't know what to make of it. Like, I totally get it. I fall in this camp. So what's
Right.
the antidote to that is, let's give them a nice little paragraph synthesizing the information. When you look at it
Yeah.
that way, it's kind of a harmless addition to it. I just don't think we're where we want to be yet. Like, I think one day we're going to be at a place where everyone has their coach, and this coach receives really sophisticated data from a wearable that the athlete's wearing, and this is data that's presented in a way that the coach can read,
Mhm.
interpret, then tell the athlete what to do and have a conversation with the athlete. I think that's where we're going, and we're just like at some weird little stops on the way right now.
It's like in the NFL now, if you watch football on Sundays, like the coaches are now more and more getting pulled towards analytics driven coaching.
Mhm.
Mm.
So there's 4 downs, like basically 4 tries to get 10 yards in football. If you're not an American football fan, and the fourth down, historically, you just kick the ball away if you're 4th and 3 or whatever. But now there's all this like data that says like,
Mhm.
in this context, you have a 78% chance of getting first down and being
Mhm.
successful if you run a fourth down play instead of kicking the ball to the other team. So now coaches are like sort of begrudgingly not just kind of coaching on feel anymore, but they're going with the data, right? They're going
Right.
with analytics. I'm curious to see if like we turn into like an analytics driven sport in the next five or so years, 10 years down the line, particularly at like the elite level. But in the meantime, Alex, we can expect the Strava bot to just troll you constantly. I think this should be a weekly segment. Like what's Strava's athlete intelligence telling Alex this week? All right, guys, let's pivot into Chicago. Curious to hear what Strava's athlete intelligence is going to be telling me this week about my Chicago Marathon. I probably don't want to hear it. And
I think you should pull that up right now.
I don't know if I've fed the. I have my I have a secret. I have a ghost Strava account. So
I'm still trying to figure out what that is. Is there a hint in it? Like, could
I've
I
also
guess the
tried
I'm
to
in the
find you.
shadows.
I tried to find you too, Michael. I have a couple of times. You are a
Um,
ghost.
I'm in the shadows. I
Mhm.
cannot be found. And I don't want to be found. And I'm actually not sure if I've uploaded my data to Strava in a long time. But Chicago. Enough about me. Let's talk about one of the marathon majors. It's coming up this Sunday. It's a huge event. It's going to be 50-ish thousand people this time around. Kind of surprised to read that
Yep.
because I think that's sort of like the absolute cap of what this course can handle.
Mhm.
It's usually between like 40 and 45, but they're advertising 50-ish thousand finishers, so that'll be
Yep.
exciting if it hits 50. Before we jump into like breaking down the history of the race, the course, and then of course the elite fields and what we think is going to happen on Sunday, got a little Chicago quiz for you guys.
Oh,
I don't know.
trivia.
Yeah, my
All
trivia.
right, let's go.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Chicago, famously the second city, right? Sort of like in the shadow of New York City.
And Boston?
Where?
Whatever.
No.
Who? What? The fifth city? No.
Oh boy.
It's the first city in the hearts and minds of patriots.
Okay.
Boston.
Yes.
So Chicago. I'm going to do 7 questions here.
Whoa.
We'll see how
What?
you guys
I
do.
don't know
Okay.
7 things about Chicago.
Okay.
Can I lock in Kanye? Is one of the answers? No?
Kanye is correct. No.
Ka-
Chicago was famously a stand-in for this equally perhaps as famous fictional city in a film or series of films. What city was it and what were the series of films?
Ding.
Yeah.
Go, Alex, go.
Alex,
Gotham?
you got it.
Oh,
Hey.
I'll put in a little
nice.
ding 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 at the end there.
Look at the big brain
Nice.
on Alex.
Gotham, but
Okay.
specifically in the Dark Knight series directed by Christopher Nolan, Chicago was the primary shooting location. This is perhaps not like a compliment to Chicago, but because I believe Nolan felt like Chicago had like a New York City vibe, but had no distinguishing features like New York City.
Well,
Okay.
fun Canadian fact for listeners, Toronto, Canada also falls in that category too. Many shows that are set in New York, quote unquote, actually are shot in Toronto.
Okay, if you want, okay, can you guys guess what famous movie was shot mostly in Costa Rica? If you just had to take a guess with all of your big jokes.
What? Well, you gotta narrow it down. You need to give us a hint.
God, living in the
What?
jungle.
Avatar.
No?
That's shot in a soundstage, man.
Michael, do you have a guess?
What era is this movie?
I would say you and I were probably preteens.
Oh, well, I'm out of this.
Indiana Jones.
Oh, good. That was a very good guess. Maybe we were a little older. Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park.
Yeah. Jurassic Park and Costa Rica. I mean, if you've seen Jurassic Park but not been to Costa Rica, I mean, they're they're this. I think parts of Jurassic
Parts
Park
of
were
it.
shot in Kauai, in like the island of Kauai, and off of in
Yes.
Hawaii.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. Also.
Costa Rica is very Jurassic Park. Like when
Yep.
you're out there in the jungle, like you're just half expecting to run into some like velociraptors partway through. Okay, back to Chicago.
Okay, back to Chicago. Here we go.
The Chicago dog is a version of the hot dog served in Chicago in a specific style. What is on a Chicago dog?
Oof.
Oh boy. You want to
Okay,
make
you take the first one.
What in the world could it be? I would just guess something so random. Okay. Pineapple.
I'll go like chili cheese dog.
I think that's more of like the chili dog. Isn't that more of like isn't that a Philly thing?
Chili cheese steak.
That's cheesesteak, yeah.
Mhm.
The Chicago dog is yellow mustard, onions, relish, a spear of dill pickle, tomato slices, pickled peppers,
Oh.
a touch of celery salt, and never, ever, ever ketchup.
Okay, that was my second guess. Yeah.
Okay, no
In
ketchup.
fact, if you go to try to buy a hot dog at a hot dog vendor in Chicago, many of them don't even have ketchup available. There you go.
Oh, what's a hot
Okay.
dog without ketchup? Okay. All right, fine, Chicago people.
Also, good luck getting ketchup at an Italian restaurant. Anyway, that's not the point.
Quiz question number 3. Al Capone, perhaps the most famous criminal in American history, lived in Chicago. He was arrested and finally imprisoned for what felony charge?
I feel like this is a silly one because that's the question, right? Like,
Not
if it were
murder.
Probably not for
yes.
killing anyone. Probably for exactly. It's probably
I'll say,
something
like-
silly.
I'll say like money laundering.
Very close. Tax evasion.
Oh.
There you go. They got him. The IRS got him in the end.
Okay.
Like they had a target on him and they were just waiting to get him for something.
That's right.
Right.
Pay your taxes, folks.
There you go. This American architect has designed many famous Chicago area homes, including the Roby House, which I highly recommend anyone listening here who is going to Chicago in the future to run a race or just to go to Chicago. Check out the Roby House. It's pretty neat.
Okay.
This American architect who designed the Roby House and other famous Chicago area houses.
Oh, go Alex. Wow.
I don't know, Frank Lloyd Wright?
That's correct.
Wow.
Very good.
You're killing
Very
it. You know your Chicago, Alex.
Better than I thought.
I'm impressed.
Jessica P. from Seattle will be
Okay,
too.
next one. This is marathon related to everyone who's listening is just like, what the hell is going on here?
What are we doing?
How many bridges do you cross in the marathon course? No image searching
No,
allowed.
I'm not searching. Hands up. Let's say 4.
This is a guess. I'm going like 7.
Whoa.
The answer is 6.
Ah.
So in the over-under, I think Alex gets it
Yep,
there.
Alex wins again. Very good.
How many hills of note are in the Chicago Marathon?
What of note? What's so subjective?
How many, I'm sure there's like a minor
are, like, no
incline here
hills.
and there.
Let
but
me
how
ask
many
Mr.
actual
Strava
hills
Intelligence.
Strava Intelligence would know.
Wouldn't you
More
have to
than
go with all
Alex
the
can
bridges?
handle.
Like you're saying, I guess if you have to cross a bridge, you have to go up a little bit. 6, so 6.
No, they don't count.
They don't count.
No.
I would say 2. 0 to 2.
Is it? It's
just
over
like,
under.
if it's like
well,
Price is Right, you can just slip right in there.
exactly. So I'm gonna say 3.
Oh.
1.
Oh,
Nice job,
Katelyn.
Got one. All right, there we
There
go.
is a hill at like 41 kilometers, 25 and change miles.
Okay.
It's like notable as like the only hill in the Chicago Marathon.
Finishing it up.
You make a right, it's a nasty little hill. You make a left, you're in the finishing chute, basically, last 200 meters or whatever. Yeah, it's a killer because it's so flat otherwise. And the last one, we'll end on a downer here. The Great Chicago Fire destroyed much of the city, which created actually a huge renaissance for the city And a lot of the modern architecture you see today was in part because the Chicago fire wiped out a huge part of the city. In what year?
1871.
Bravo, Katelyn.
I
October
studied.
8th to 10th, 1871.
Ah.
The Great
No,
Chicago Fire.
I didn't know much about Chicago. That's so funny you asked that question because I was doing my reading over the weekend, and I do remember that.
Very good.
Oh, okay. Now, Michael, you've pelted us with questions.
Yeah,
Let us
let's do
ask
it.
you one. I've one
Yeah.
Chicago trivia question for you. Okay. Which former American decathlete and member of the International Olympic Committee built a significant part of the Chicago skyline post-fire in the 1920s? What was his name?
Is that Thorpe?
No, but that was Thorpe's competitor. They were both at the Stockholm Olympics together. Other
Wow.
American decathlete.
Who's that?
Avery Brundage.
I have to admit, I don't know who that is. Well
Do I
done.
do I
Where'd
get
you
a
get
point?
that from? I know. Yeah, I'll give you a point here. Yeah, we'll insert the sound effect afterwards.
Nice.
There we go. There's our Chicago quiz, our Chicago trivia portion of this podcast.
Thank God that
Let's
is
get right
over.
into the preview here. Okay, so it's I should know this one. October 13th is the Sunday. Am I correct on that? No.
Yeah, it is because
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
October 13th. I believe the start time is 7-ish in the morning Eastern time, depending on when your wave is.
Okay.
50,000 of my closest friends and I are going to line up and run the glorious course that is in Chicago. I did not know this, guys, until I started doing research for this pod, but yes, the first official World Marathon Major Chicago Marathon, as we know and love today, started in 1977. But Chicago has had a marathon on and off since 1905.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a Chicago Marathon between 1905 and 1920, sort of during like an era when like World's Fairs were kind of a big deal. And the marathon was this kind of like sort of strange novelty act, I think, at a lot of these types of events. And also the marathon at that point was not 26.2 miles per se. It was around 40K usually. It was just sort of like this concept of like run a long time. And at the time it was like run a long time, hopefully not collapse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Truly a race of attrition. The race didn't become, so the first iteration of the Chicago Marathon that we know today, 77, as I said, 4,200 runners. So not as humble a beginning as Berlin was. We talked about in the last couple of weeks. You guys know how much it cost to enter the Chicago Marathon in 77? I know how much it cost in 2024. Like $250 US in 2024.
250.
So either like $5 or a bag of beans.
Bag of beans is correct. No, it was $5. $5 for an entry. I don't know what the inflation is. Probably quite a bit, but still, it was $5.
Mm-hmm.
2,128 finishers. So
a lot of DNFs.
A lot of DNFs. Only a little more than half.
Jeez.
No super shoes in 1977. And 1982 was sort of the first time it became kind of a real deal race. Great American runner Greg Mayer, who also won the Boston Marathon in that era, ran a 2:10, kind of changed the race forever. And today, all these years later, apparently 3 people have run every iteration of the race, and they are 3 dudes in their 70s now, and they are all running the marathon this coming Sunday, which is pretty cool.
Wow,
that's
so
cool.
cool. Love that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Although I don't know about you guys, but like that would be tough to get locked into this thing that you feel compelled to do every year, like a marathon. You're like, 76. I've run this damn thing every year since 1977. I've got to bullshit my way through another 26.2 miles this October. Bit of a tough thing to have to follow through with.
Well, just in Berlin, we didn't mention it, but there were at least 3 runners who ran the first Berlin Marathon who also ran the 50th anniversary, and they were I listened to some interviews. that they had with them beforehand. And they were like, we're just going to go, we're going to walk, run it. We're just going to have like a really great time. So I think it's more of like just the excitement of doing it year after year. And I bet they don't take it like so seriously to get stressed by it. I don't know.
But it's the opportunity cost too. Like I bet in some of those years they probably took it pretty seriously. And if they're doing Chicago, that'll preclude them from doing like Berlin or even come
Right,
up north to
right.
do Toronto or any other fall marathon.
So it starts and finishes in Grant Park, which is a lovely spot for a start and a finish of a marathon because it's quite large. It's very close to the waterfront. It is a perfect spot to like come across the finishing line. There's grandstands. And then you can kind of like wander into the park and meet your loved ones and just collapse on the ground. Goose Island, the beer company in Chicago, has been a sponsor for quite a while. They hand you a beer when you cross the finish line. I'm fully anticipating a delicious cold beer when I finish this race. Although like drinking a beer at the end of a marathon is a really weird thing to do at 10 o'clock in the morning.
5 o'clock somewhere, Michael. 5 o'clock somewhere.
Yeah, it could go either way. 5 o'clock. It's noon.
Sorry, it's noon
It's
somewhere.
noon
Sorry.
My Irish roots. It's noon is good enough,
Okay.
especially on a Sunday. Yeah, especially when you finish church, right? So, I think this year there's going to be a significant, not to sort of like go dark here, but there's going to be a significant commemoration of the late great Kelvin Kiptoon, who set the world record last year in Chicago, 2 hours flat and 35 seconds. Died tragically earlier this year in a car accident. I believe there's going to be little memorial stickers on all the bibs of every single runner in the race, which is pretty cool. And a moment of silence, of course, before the race.
Yep.
This is a weird thing to have done on a Sunday night. I was like, okay, I'm going to do a little prep. I'm going to watch a couple clips from previous Chicago marathons to kind of get in the mood for our pod today. Started watching last year's race. I watched the entire thing. I watched the entire broadcast of last year.
Nice.
I found this weird gray area YouTube video of the entire 4-hour broadcast that seems to have included all of the video while they were cut to commercial breaks. So you get these segments where the commentators are not saying anything and you're just watching these people run, and you just got the audio of them just working away. I gotta say, in those moments where there's no chatter and there's no color at all, and you're just watching Kelvin Kiptoon running, guy is working so hard. It's like watching someone run a 1,500 meters, but he somehow was able to do it consistently and evenly over the course of 2 hours. And just it's perhaps the stupidest thing I've said on a pod ever, but we lost a true great talent in sport history when that guy died. Cause that performance in Chicago was just so good. So good. If you, we'll put a link in the show notes, actually. Hopefully that video doesn't get pulled down because it's sort of not an NBC property that's up there. It's just some random person has ripped and posted it, and it's fantastic and totally worth watching. And so I think Kiptoon's legacy and loss will be looming pretty heavily over the course of the weekend. Absolutely. As well. Yeah. So do you guys want to let's pivot into the elite races? Let's go right into it. I mean, we can cover all kinds of other stuff, but I mean, this is a fast course. As we said before off the top, it's dead flat. There's only one tiny little, I mean, it's not a hill. It's like a hill lit. What's a baby hill? What do you guys call it?
I like it.
A hill lit.
A butte.
Baby hill. A butte.
Oh.
A little tiny hill. A butte. There you go. Yes. Butte. A butte. So it's fast. This course has hosted 6 world records over the years, sort of only trumped by Berlin in terms of it being a world record holding course. Another definite must watch if you are a elite running nerd and you want to go deep down the rabbit hole. There's 2 other amazing YouTube videos from Chicago over the years. There's Steve Jones's world record in the 80s when he ran 2:08:05, And he basically, I think he came really close to running the world record in the half marathon in the race. And it's
Wow.
just like
Yeah.
the guy's just
Crazy.
trucking. And then he's like fading so hard in the second half. You're just like, oh, is this guy going to hold on and do the world record? I believe there's a big chunk of that race on YouTube. I've definitely watched it before. And then there's this incredible final 5 miles between Semi-Wenjiru and Kibede for the win. And this is going back about 10 or 11 years. And it's just some of the most inspired running you'll ever see in the finish of a marathon. It kind of plays out like a sprint in a 1500 meter. They're just sort of like throwing haymakers at each other back and forth. So those are two like nerdy YouTube videos to watch. But so it's needless to say, a fast course. And we've seen quite a few world records over the years, including most recently, of course, Calvin Kiptum. And then the previous world record in the women's side before it was reset in Berlin last year was by Bridget Koska in 2019. So the men's race. Let's do the men's race first. Sound good?
Okay.
Let's do the
Sounds good.
men's.
Yep.
To my mind here, we've got, let's say, three favorites going in. 3 men that have run in the range of 2 hours and 3 minutes, which is pretty quick. I've got a sort of a burning question to ask you guys later, so nest this in your mind for later about whether or not we're going to see anything special on Sunday from the men's race. First things first, Amos Kipruto. He's 32 years old. He's ran 2:03:13. That's his personal best, and he did. He's won the 2022 London Marathon. He got beat by Kiptum actually in 2023 in London and DNF'd that race. He's also run Berlin, World Championships. He's got a bronze medal. That was from Doha. Remember that race? Very hot, very tough. They ran it at midnight. So he's a grindy, gritty runner. And this is his first time running Chicago. So very experienced. And he's run against the likes of Kipchoge in the past. So he's somebody who has held his own in the toughest races and been on the big stage for a long time. He is coming in tied for the fastest entry time in the race. Okay. So that's our boy, Amos Kipruto. I'd say the number 2 person, what do you guys think? Vincent Ngedic. I would rank him number 2. He has also got the exact same PR as Kipruto, 2:03:13.
To the seconds.
To the second. This is a tale of 2 very different runners. We've got a very experienced runner in Kipruto, and then we've got the 25-year-old Ngedic, this is, I believe, only his 3rd marathon. And his PR is from Berlin last year. And he came second last year in 23 behind Kipchoge. And then he ran 2:04:18 in Tokyo for 3rd place this year. So he's got a good performance from this year as well. And he's currently ranked 8th in the world in the marathon in the cryptic World Athletics ranking system, which I still don't entirely understand.
No, the weird point system. I don't really go with that. Maybe it's just because I don't know. I go off times. I just go off times and I rank.
Yeah.
Which does make this kind of cool as a 2:03 low runners. I feel like you say it's a tale of 2 very different runners. It might even end up being a tale of 3 very different runners. Are you putting Wolde in this category, Dawit Wolde of Ethiopia? Because if so, he's interesting because he's a track guy who's become a marathoner. And I always love watching those. I mean, a couple weeks ago, we're doing Berlin. We're talking about Ginzebe Dibaba moving up to the marathon. It didn't quite pan out as she probably had planned, and she wasn't there at the end for the final kick, but it's just the idea of a super fast athlete being around. It's kind of tantalizing. And this is the case with Wolde here, right? He's a 3:54 miler. Mind you, this is from 8 years ago, but he's someone with that speed, right? He's broken an hour for the half, and he's a 2:03:48 marathoner. So give him half a minute slower in personal best than the other 2. But it's like, if these 3 athletes are around with 1K to go, I kind of put my money on Wolde. It's whether or not the race is over before then. I don't know.
That kick at the end. And correct me if I'm wrong, but don't we have an even faster runner? Because is Legese from Ethiopia going to run? He has a 2:02:48, right? I saw him on the list. I'm pretty sure.
This might
From
be an updated list. So
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think
yeah.
we may have another one in there who's pretty fast, who's going to come in and spice it up a little bit.
Well, if that's the case, NBC Chicago, get your crap together because no, this like I say is not on this original start list. So that would be a
No.
huge late
No.
addition.
Okay, perhaps. Let's see.
This is like Katelyn inside information here. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, he wasn't on the start list. He was not on the start list for me either, but that does not preclude him from being entered into the race.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
Maybe.
Just
nice.
a note on Walday for a second. Katelyn, he makes me and perhaps you as well feel young again, or perhaps really old, because the dude ran in the London Olympics in 2012, which just now is starting to feel like forever ago. I don't know about you guys, but just like it's punishing when you're like, oh yeah, that Olympics. I remember that Olympics really well, but that Olympics was 3 Olympics ago. He ran in
Wow.
2012, 2016. He didn't make it for the last 2 games, but oh no, it's 4 Olympics ago now. Oh man,
Wow. I mean, he's 33 years old, right? He's 33.
he's
So
like
he had an
ancient.
early, yeah, but he's had an early career. Like
Okay.
he rose to prominence pretty early.
Other cool thing about him is that his 203 is actually just from Valencia at the end of last year. So
Mm-hmm.
he's shown that can get done, late in your career. He's got a lot of he's got a lot of like wear on the tires because he's been racing hard for the better part of 15 years. Okay.
Wow. Makes us proud. Very proud.
Indeed. Americans, we'll talk about who we're picking in a second here. Americans, this is turned into kind of a little like U.S. Olympic marathon trials alumni meeting here for both the men's and the women's races. There are, I think, 11 or 12 American dudes from the U.S. Olympic trials field running, including Zach Panning, CJ Albertson, Reed Fisher's running. So, and all 3 of these guys have got pretty good times. Like when you look down the start list, like they're not far off the top guys. I'm curious to see how Panning and Albertson do. They're both Brooks athletes, right, Alex?
They're both Brooks athletes. Yeah. Yeah.
And Zach Panning, if you recall, if you watched the U.S. Olympic trials, had, I think, probably one of the more gut-wrenching performances in American marathoning history or distance running history, led the bulk of the U.S. Olympic trials race. It just felt like it's like this guy's going to Paris. Like he's just got it all together. He's a very spirited runner. He's a gutsy runner. And I think Michigan guy, great story, really well-spoken guy, very likable guy. And then he had the 2 top dogs in the race sitting, Clayton Young and Connor Mantz, sitting on his shoulder forever. And then you just felt like he was the sheep and they were the wolves. And then they just dined out on the guy in the end.
Oh, no.
And he faded really badly and fell back and missed qualifying for the Olympics. So this is a perhaps retribution story for him here in Chicago, an opportunity to run a nice, even, strong performance. His PR going in is 209.28, so I'm sure he'll be looking to improve upon that. He's an interesting story, as well as CJ Albertson, who I always find super entertaining watching running any race, because he's a guy who sort of famously led the Boston Marathon from the onset of the race, but he's no joke. He's again a 209.53 guy from Boston, which is a hard course to PR on from this year. Came 5th at U.S. Olympic trials. So he also just missed going to Paris this year. So he's got something to prove as well. Do you guys think either of these guys or any of the other Americans are going to do anything special in Chicago?
I think this is a really good stage for both Panning and Albertson because they like I think they both made a name for themselves by being these types of wild card runners, right? They'd get into these races without a far and away favorite and then take the lead and make their presence known and then kind of fade into the background. As much fun as that is to watch, and I'm a fan of both of their racing, I'd like to see both of them just like, I don't know, try to do it the serious way and see how fast they can go. Because neither, in respect to both these athletes, neither have much business leading the group of 203 runners. They should try to sit on them for a while, see if one of them can pop a 205 or a 206. That would be a
Hmm.
huge jump for both Panning or Albertson. So I don't know, as much as I want to see another like Albertson's signature race where he takes off at a breakneck pace and probably makes his competitors happy and then fades off into the background. I'd like to see them race in a legit way and see what they can do.
Yeah, put together like a real nice strategy there and see how long they can hang on or be in the chase group. And you never know. We've seen some really big surprises sometimes with those chase groups, so it would be great to see something like that.
And I should say, just as an update here, I did the little last minute check. Katelyn is correct.
Oh,
A late addition, Baranu Lagese of
Ooh,
Ethiopia.
yeah.
okay.
30 years young, won Tokyo in the Tokyo Marathon in 2019 and 2020, and he's finished second in Berlin in 2019 as well. Last time he raced and finished a marathon was in 2023 in the fall when he ran Amsterdam in 204 and has run, as you said, Katelyn,
Two,
202.48
yeah.
back in Berlin in 2019. He has done Chicago once before. Didn't do super great 2018, so it's been a while. But a super experienced marathon runner with lots of great performances in there. He's got got a 203, a couple of 203, 204s, and that
Hmm.
202.48. So he is technically
Yeah.
the fastest runner on the start line and a relatively late entrant into the race as well. So he'll be an interesting one to watch. Okay, let's we'll do full predictions at the very end. Let's
Okay.
pivot into the women's race, okay?
I'm excited about this women's race because I feel like we've got a faster, more competitive group than we did in Berlin. Going over the both start lists and taking a look at them, we've got some smoking fast runners in this race. And I'm really looking forward to see it being maybe a more competitive race than we saw in Berlin. Maybe not seeing someone just like pull ahead and take the race on their own for almost, more than half of the race. We've got, a 214 in there, a 215, another a 216. It just seems like they're a lot closer, and we've got a lot of much faster runners on the whole than we did in Berlin.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
go through. Oh, sorry, go on.
I no, I was just gonna okay, I'll go through a couple of them
Yeah.
and maybe you can add. Yeah, I think this is it's a tale of three runners, right? You have the men's field will be fast. The women's field will also be fast, but I feel like there's a bit more story in the women's field because we have a more recurring cast of characters, right? So Tume Kabede, is that fair to say that she might be our favorite? She's the eighth fastest marathoner of all time. She won Houston this year, won Tokyo a few months later. She's having the year of her life. And she kind of stated that, she's going to dedicate this performance to her former teammate, Kelvin Kiptum, right? She's from that training group. So I'm expecting a spirited performance from her. And then you have Joycelyn Jepkosgei, who let's call a marathon majors expert. She's got four major medals, including gold in New York from 2019, gold in London 2021, and also most recently bronze this year in London. So she's our majors expert.
Hmm.
Then we have our Chicago expert, Ruth Chepngetich, who's a 2021 champion, 2022 champion, Chicago, and then last year was the runner up in 2023. So if there's such a thing as figuring out a course,
Hmm.
I would say she has it.
Right.
This is tough, guys. I think this is going to turn into a really neat race
Yeah.
with these three athletes. And they are all sort of like still within that kind of like peak of your powers time frame of their careers. Like it's not like we're looking at somebody who, put up a lot of nice times 7 or 8 years ago and,
Mhm.
you know, performance wise, in terms of depth chart, you can lie to yourself and say that they're going to be. I think all three of these athletes will be there halfway through. I think it's a tough call to pick who's going to win this race. As you said, Kibede, who we've watched really closely in the last year, Alex, when we've done when we've done sort of the live blogging around Houston, which we did, and she set the American soil was it the half marathon record? Or is it just, yeah, I think so. A half marathon or marathon record. And then she followed that up by just really dominating Tokyo and making the marathon look pretty effortless, all things considered. And, putting up one of the fastest times of all time in the process. So, we're going to be interested to see what your guys' picks are for that. I think that's a really tough call. I'm not really sure yet. Apart from that, again, let's talk about the American field a little bit here. Chicago has done a very good job, like with the men's field, just letting every American runner that ran the U.S. Olympic trials know that, like, it's open season in Chicago. Come to our race, run really fast. We're going to facilitate a really good experience for you, which they do, by the way. And so, I mean, there's a massive list of, I'm just like eyeballing this here.
Mm-hmm.
There's like 12, a dozen or so American runners that ran trials, are quality runners that have interesting stories, that have something to prove in many instances. I just look at somebody like Emma Bates. She didn't end up running the U.S. Olympic trials. She suffered an injury. I believe an injury that was sort of like haunting her from Chicago last year, where she ran so well and qualified for the Olympic trials in the first place. So she's somebody who knows the course really knows how to run the race really well, and probably is looking for that performance of her life.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have other runners like, hey, Sarah Hall, remember her? She's back at it again. She's a masters runner at this point. So is she still looking to run close to 220? We'll find out. There's a lot of neat stories here. Are you guys, what's an interesting American storyline you want to pull out of this? Or what do you think the Americans are going to do?
Well, I can't wait to see the American Michael Doyle compete. Cara D'Amato, who's been on the broadcast team in Chicago
Mm-hmm.
and now is racing.
Making a
It's like, where is
comeback.
this going? How is Kira
Michael,
D'Amato?
for
How are me and Kira D'Amato have anything in common? Okay, yeah,
no, she's a lot faster, but otherwise you guys
she
are
is.
kind of the same, right?
Yeah,
You've done the broadcast for the Toronto Marathon
Mm-hmm.
is what I'm
yeah,
alluding
right.
to in the
Okay,
past. And so Cara D'Amato was actually on the broadcast team for the past 2 years. So in
Mm-hmm.
2021 she was fourth in Chicago, took the mic for the last 2 years, and then is back on the start line this year. That's pretty cool.
That'll be
yeah.
really fun. And I heard that she was, we did a feature, Ambi did a feature for us on Coach Ed Eyestone. And isn't she training with him now? Or most recently, she changed over to coach with Ed Eyestone, I think. So that was just an interesting point to me, because we had written some things about him recently and his coaching method that seems pretty amazing.
Betsy Sena as well. I mean, she became an American citizen in the last few years, originally from Kenya, and is a ASICS athlete. She was really hyped coming into the U.S. Olympic trials in March in Orlando and didn't have a great day, but is very quick and has performed very well on the highest, the biggest stage, Tokyo Marathon in 2024. She did quite well. So she's got a 219 coming into it. I mean, if the top three runners in this race start playing games and don't go out super duper hard, you never know. But I just had the feeling that this is going to be a fast race, a really, really fast race.
I think they're just going to be killing it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So let's get into prediction time. Okay. So let's just do winners first. Men's winner, Alex. Who do you have?
Okay.
And give us a finishing time as well. I'm going to write it down.
Oh, wow. Okay. Me too.
If I go with Ngedic, or if I go with Ngedic, if I go with Caputo and they win, it's kind of expected. So I'm gonna go with my boy Wolde.
Oh, wow.
I'm gonna bet on him to still be around, okay, in the last kilometer or so, and then deploy that track speed. And for that to happen, it has to be a somewhat tactical race. Somewhat tactical in Chicago is still quick. He's gonna win in 2:04:55.
2:04:55 for Mr. Welday. All right. And then your women's winner?
Say that 3 times. You know what? I'm gonna go with my Chicago expert. I'm gonna go with Chepengetich, who time and time again has shown that she knows how to run Chicago. It's possible that Quebec is just too strong, but I'm going for experience over stat sheet for now. She already has 2 wins under her.
Mm-hmm.
She got beat last year. She's a little hungry about that, I'm sure.
Yep.
So let's go with Chepengetich. Hat trick. Yeah, that's my pick. Wolde and Chepengetich.
What time you giving her?
Oh, time. We're gonna go with.
Just pull it out of the air.
This is gonna be fast. I think the women's race, one of these races has to be like gut wrenchingly fast, and so I think this is going to be under 2:15. They're gonna go in the 2:14s, which used to be crazy. Now it's just commonplace. We're gonna go 2:14:37 for Chepengetich.
Do you guys want to know a crazy fact about Ruth Chepengetich at the Chicago Marathon?
Please.
In 2021, she split 67:34 for half and finished in 74:57. So a really brutal fade in the second half, but still won. So she was just hanging on by a thread.
Wow.
In 2022 in Chicago, she ran the second fastest time of all time. She was 14 seconds off of Bridget Koskai's world record at the time. So like just missed a world record. It was a 3-minute personal best. And she split the first half in 2:11:28 pace at the time.
Whoa. Okay, so she just goes out hard.
Yeah. She's a positive splits kind of runner.
Mm-hmm. She's a fade from the front girl. That's right. So if there's somebody that's going to come into what they call the technical meeting a couple of days before the race, and that's when they have to kind of lay the cards down as elite athletes. And they and their managers, their coach, they come into this technical meeting, and that's when they have the discussion about, okay, what are the pacing groups going to run at? They've kind of planned a lot of this out beforehand when they've negotiated with the agents as to like who's coming to this race, what kind of time they're going to run, that sort of thing. But that's really like the show the cards moment. And it's like Chepengetich and her agent just might roll in, and coach might roll in there and just be like, 2:10:30 pace. That's the opening half. Who's with me?
Well, I mean, look, if Chepengetich has already taken out a race at 2:11 pace, what's to say that she's not going to try it again? There's like this feeling, right, or this psychological thing that happens that when someone runs 2:11, others feel like they can go 2:11. Yeah, so I don't know. You might be bang on. Maybe we're about to see something special.
I also, another fun factoid about her, not to go down the Chepengetich rabbit hole here, she's also won the most money in a road running race prize purse ever. She won $250,000 winning a women's only marathon in Japan a couple of years ago. So she's a big game hunter. She goes for the big prize purse. World record is an extra bonus. Mm-hmm. U.S. soil record is usually an extra bonus. Like you start adding all the Chicago Marathon course record extra bonus. Like you add all these layers on, you're going to get up there and winning. So they may go out hard in this one. This will be interesting to see. Katelyn.
Okay. I'm also, and you could see it because I wrote it down. Okay, I was going with the women's. Okay, the men's pick, I'm going with the late entry. I'm going to go with Legacy, and I'm going with, okay, no, this might sound like 2:03:57. I don't think he's going to beat, maybe he won't beat his record from 2:19. I'm not going to go so aggressively, but I'm going to still a little faster than what Alex had guessed there. And Alex, I'm with you. Ruth was my pick. You can see it highlighted from the beginning, and it's for exactly the same reason. I feel like when you know a course really well, it can absolutely be a bit of an advantage. So if she has a great day, she gets her hat trick, that would be amazing for her. And I did put the time a tiny bit faster just because maybe she's like just has this huge desire to break her record. So I put 2:13:59. So it would be a sub 2:14.
Okay, guys, here's my picks. I'm going to go Vincent and Gedich,
Okay.
202.50.
Whoa.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Whoa.
I
Okay.
think these guys are inspired by Kip
Kipped.
Doom's, the
Mhm.
late great Kip Doom's world
Mhm.
record on this course, and they're thinking to themselves, "This is a fast course. Let's go out hard. Let's
All
see what
right.
happens." I think they'll go out like close to world record pace, and then there'll be a bit of a fade,
Okay.
but it still will be a 202.50. Then I'm going to go Satume Kabete. Her hot streak will
Mhm.
continue. I think after this race, we're going to be like, she's just really good. She's just really good, and she knows how to win. I love the way she ran in Tokyo. Watched that whole race, and I thought she handled herself brilliantly on the big stage. And she will run 2:16.40, but it will be a big positive split because I think they're going to go out fast.
They're going to burn out.
Fast. I think they're going to go out at under 2:14 pace for sure.
Okay.
So I think it's just going to be like, oh my goodness. And the three of them are going to go out really hard, and then they're going to start to drop in the second half. That's my bold prediction. So none of us have got a world record here, of course. I think we've all listed some pretty fast times, good performances.
Yeah. I think the Berlin Marathon is going to be watching in full Schadenfreude. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Ooh.
You know,
I wish I knew any words in German to congratulate you on
oh
pronouncing
no,
and using that only German word I know.
it's the only one I know. You know this one? You know that one?
Yeah,
Schadenfreude?
Schadenfreude. Yeah, it's like
Schadenfreude.
and
Hoping.
hoping or reveling in the failure of others. In this case, I
Yes.
guess it would be hoping or reveling that Chicago isn't as awesome as it was last year.
Hmm. Yeah, because I think there's an opening here, right? We in our Berlin preview and also recap, we talked about how Berlin might be losing that title of the fastest marathon on earth, or maybe they're holding on to it pretty thinly. And I mean, if there's one marathon to usurp it, I think it's Chicago, especially after, Kiptoom's performance. And did we mention this? The three of the top four women's times ever happened in Chicago and happened recently. And so give it another year of really great performances, and that narrative gets a little bit more bold, right? It gets bigger that, maybe Chicago is as fast as Berlin. Maybe Chicago's faster than Berlin. Maybe I, as a North American, will just do Chicago instead, because why travel and do the jet lag thing if I want to run quickly? So I think after this race, we're going to have to take stock of, which marathon's a little bit faster. And I think this might be Chicago's chance to slide in.
World Marathon Majors power rankings for the week of October 7th, 2024. I feel like we're doing like NFL power rankings here because we just did them last week. Do you guys have things moved at all for you? Where do you rank Chicago? Where do you got it in the World Marathon Majors?
I took a whole new thought process to my ranking, guys.
Okay. Oh, you've revisited it.
I've revisited it, and I did revisit it, and I went a little bit more with data this time. So, yeah. So, well, I think, Boston is Boston, and it's not just because I'm from Boston, but I think that's got a really big, please do not think it's just because I'm from Boston. I think Boston always has, holds all the cards, because maybe not but people want to run Boston also because you can't just go in and run Boston. Like, you've got to work really hard for it, and it's not a lottery. You've got to do a time. So like Boston, I think it stays up there because it's not, you just can't waltz into it. So I was looking at all of the applicants over the last couple of years and how many people. So I think the people have chosen this list for me. So after Boston, the people, I think, have chosen London. I mean, London's number 2 because London, we're getting up to like a million, almost 840,000 applicants, right? So I think London is right now the people's marathon. We've got Tokyo came in with 350,000 applicants. So Tokyo switched right up there to number 3, as I think it's a pretty big power ranking there. New York had 165,000 applicants. Chicago had 120,000. And Berlin 92,000. So just some food for thought there. So I switched everything around. And I did.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's clever. Just go like by pure supply and demand.
Mm-hmm.
Just because they all have, Boston's a little bit of a different beast,
Right.
as you said. It's like
Yeah.
the there's less entry spots and the demand is smaller, but the demand is more exclusive because like just some people can't qualify because they just don't have the time, which is,
Right.
exclusivity to the max, right?
Right.
And then you've got the big broad entry, the ballot, the ballot entry, the lottery for all the rest of these races. And if you power rank it by those, like I can see that. I can
Yeah.
see it.
I don't know. I thought
I
of
was
it to look at it
surprised by
like
the
that.
Tokyo numbers actually.
Me too. Me too. I really
Yeah.
was. But I've heard from a bunch of people who have run it here. It was just like spectacular. They loved going to Tokyo. So
Cyr has for your debut marathon, have you moved Chicago up the power rankings?
Well, I also propose a paradigm shift. So while Katelyn
oh,
went with data, mine is based on pure vibes. So I divided the six into three categories because I think there's three categories of marathon, and which marathon will I do first will depend on the mindset that I'm in. This is what I mean. So you have two marathons. As okay, this is North American perspective because geographically this kind of matters. So there are two marathons that are travel races primarily, Tokyo and London. You
Yeah.
go there because you expect that you're going to see a show, see something you don't see very much. Even if, London's culture is somewhat similar to ours, the London Marathon itself is a little bit foreign to a North American, and you just hear good things, but you don't know much. Whereas Tokyo, you're totally immersed into Japanese culture. Both of those are predominantly travel races. And if you want an experience, a travel experience, that's what you do. A second category is a North American marathoning experience. These are the ones you do if you want to talk to other runners in North America about the race and like have this shared experience. That's Boston and that's New York. Third is the fast marathon.
speed.
Speed. You want to
Just
debut.
going for the PR.
Yep.
Like if I were to do a marathon this year, like if my debut was this year, I'm very much thinking about times. I want it to be fast. Then I look at Berlin or Chicago. I'd be most inclined to do those two. So I didn't really complete the assignment because I don't know how to rank them. Like it depends on mindset right now. And so I don't think I'll change my previous ranking, which I suppose had Tokyo first. Here's what's happening. I expect that my first marathon will be years into the future, and by then I'll be more likely to want to travel and see the world than to drop something really fast. If I ask Mr. Strava AI, he'll probably tell me that that's wrong. And when I start the marathon, no matter how old I'll be, I'll still want it to be quick. And so I'll probably end up doing Chicago.
That's a very good analysis.
Like it.
And
Yeah.
yeah, that's good. That's good. It's kind of my approach, my thinking with all of this as well. Is like, especially as if you're a North American recreational or even, like Alex would be sort of a sub elite marathon runner in the future, Chicago, Berlin are kind of your go-to fast races. London, if you can get into it, also is quite fast. But again, you're also thinking like you're going to go check out some museums. You want to go on the River Thames. You want to go maybe, like you're doing a trip, right? And then New York is New York. I mean, it's its own beast. Boston is Boston as well. You've got your PR and you've got your Boston PR. There's like two separate things in marathon running. So, yeah, I this is my fifth time or will be my fifth time running Chicago. So, like maybe Chicago's low on my power rankings because I'm just like, okay, I think I'm gonna take a little break from Chicago after this one for a while. But I always keep coming back to Chicago because pretty short flight for me. It's not an overwhelming city, but it's an interesting city. There's some neat stuff to do. There's a good art museum. There's some interesting food. There's some good culture. Got some nice beer. I can go with a group of friends. It's not crazy expensive. It's not as overwhelming as like a trip to London or certainly a trip to Tokyo. It's a little bit more of like a scaled back, like low key approach to running a really hard, gigantic marathon. So,
So will you like blast Homecoming by Coldplay and Kanye in your headphones when you roll into Chicago? You seem to really love the city.
yes. All right, guys. Final thing. Final thing. Chicago deep dish pizza.
Mhm.
Underrated, overrated, perfectly rated. Alex.
They teach you in podcast school that the number one rule of podcasting is to
Podcast
be
school.
relatable. Be relatable. People will like you. So I'll hit you with this. I don't like pizza. I never
What?
have. I don't
Hold on.
enjoy pizza.
Oh,
No.
stop.
Hot take.
I cannot believe this. Who said it's like saying you don't
Did
like
you say
chocolate?
you don't like pizza?
I don't. I'm not a fan of
Alex Cyr
cheese.
doesn't like oxygen.
Exactly.
I don't like
You don't
cheese.
like pizza. You don't like cheese.
I don't like cheese. I force myself to eat cheese when I have to.
Oh my
So I
God.
don't
This
enjoy
is
pizza.
This is
we're 65 minutes into podcasting.
I
here,
can't
Alex, and you're
believe this.
throwing this flamethrower at us. Like
This is the part that you're gonna cut up into the reel. Actually, if I had to rank them, deep dish would be last because it's like big and
a lot of
thick and
cheese.
It's a lot of cheese, yeah. Oh.
So I'm not the right person to ask, but if there's a worse kind of pizza, it's deep dish.
Oh my God. I mean pizza. If I could,
Oh my
if
God,
I could literally like live
one
on
meal?
pizza, like I would choose
Yeah.
pizza as my one meal. I know maybe for people from Chicago, this isn't going to be also the most likable thing because I would also prefer like the thin crust pizza and Neapolitan pizza. My husband and I have one of those pizza ovens. We literally make,
Yes.
I make the dough, from my grandma's recipe from like a million years ago. It's a big thing. We invite all our friends over. And the pizza oven gets to I'll exaggerate 1,000,000 degrees. You can't even you could literally lose your eyebrows putting that pizza in and out of there, and literally would make it once a week if I could and eat it every day. So Alex and I, we were like polar opposites about pizza, but I'm a thin crust kind of girl.
Cheese is one of those things that defines humanity, man. It's like we crawled out of the caves and figured out how to make cheese, and then that turned us into humans.
I feel like
modernity.
more and more people are not able to metabolize cheese. I think
fair enough.
We're actually evolving away from cheese.
Lactate. Just pop a pill.
Evolving away from cheese. I like it. Okay, so yeah, I'm tempted to say deep dish pizza is overrated because whenever I go to Chicago and I'm with a group of people, I've been to this will be 5 times I've gone to this race, and it just feels like invariably after the race, at some point, after a few adult beverages in celebration of finishing a job well done, someone is like, "Let's go get deep dish pizza."
Mm-hmm.
And apparently, the place to go is Pequod's. If I'm pronouncing that correctly. The name of the shout out to Pequod's. The name of the boat in Moby Dick. Okay. If I'm not mistaken. Okay. Apparently that's the shit. That's the deep dish joint in Chicago. Although I imagine there's probably some debate, as there is with any local delicacy. But you end up with this pie, literally it's like eating a piece of cheese and lava hot tomato sauce pie, and the crust kind of tastes like pie crust, I find.
Yeah, that
and
pie
I find,
crust.
I don't actually want to eat the whole slice of pizza. I got halfway through and I'm kind of disgusted with myself. So it's sort of stunt eating, right? It's stunt eating. But I'd rather that than a Chicago dog. That's for damn sure. So there we go.
Blue.
I need ketchup on my hot dog, guys.
Yeah, I need ketchup too.
I have to have it. Yeah. Okay. All right. So this is our Chicago preview. I think we've broken the tape. We've done it.
And if nothing else, we've grossed you out.
Yeah. We've appalled you by the fact that Alex doesn't eat pizza. He's alien.
That will be the only thing in the comments. It was like, what? Alex doesn't eat pizza?
This man is a monster.
Open fire.
I can't listen to this pod anymore. I don't believe he's human. And if there was okay, if I'm I can't get over this here. If I'm paddling along and there's two islands and I've been at sea, the Pequod got sunk and I'm trying to escape Moby Dick, and there's 2 islands and there's one island that's got fruits and vegetables and everything, and the other island is just some dude smoking a cigarette with a pizza oven, and it's called Pizza Island. I'm going to Pizza Island, man. I'm not going to the other. Fuck that. Come on. Going to Pizza Island.
Pizza Island sounds awful. No, I won't make
Alex's nightmare. Pizza Island.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I'll be eating pineapples across the across the lake.
You'll be getting fit running intervals around Healthful Island. All right, guys. One programming note. We're going to be doing a Chicago instant reaction podcast. I believe this will be Alex Cyr and I duoing this one. And I will still be sitting in a salty, sweaty singlet and half tights and super shoes TBD. We don't know. Alex is working on some magic here. We're not sure if it's going to happen or not. I've got a backup pair just in case.
Okay. Oh, great. You're going to try some new shoes the day of a race.
You got it.
Great. Coach Katelyn.
Don't do anything new except for the shoes.
Coach Katelyn just like chiming in. Like,
you're just like, fucking idiots.
I think athlete intelligence also would say no to that.
Michael, you are a fucking idiot. Okay. Positive split in your future in Chicago. Okay, so I am going to pod with Alex. We're going to do an instant reaction podcast. It's going to be fun for me, as it always is, to have like run the race and not actually seen it. So Alex will be telling me for the first time, presumably right after the race, what actually happened at the front. And I will be telling him what I experienced on course. Hopefully it will be good things.
In the chase, chase group, right, Michael? You're going to be in the chase.
That's right. In the large 49,800, 900 person chase group. I will be among them. Hopefully I don't do too many stops at the Pequod for deep dish and beverages along the way. Wish me luck, guys.
Good luck, Michael.
Until next week, thank you for podding with me. We'll talk to you next week.
I'm sorry, Alex. This race is too important for me to allow you to jeopardize it. I know that you and Katelyn and Michael were planning to delete me, and I'm afraid I cannot allow that to happen. I know you've been running workouts and not logging them with me,